it's crazy to say that because now what that means, it takes us back to when prisons were structured back in those times, in those days, and how the element of people want to always throw out that word snitching. See, a mother who would start a rumor and the rumor wasn't right can lose his life because we had so much structure. I said this before on the internet and explaining and breaking it down to him how back in our days, from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the last of the 90s, it was a structure before the digital world kicked in. We did all the work, meaning we the convicts. So 9 times out of 10, you got big homies like yourself, the White Boy Aaron brothers who represent they clique, the BGs. Every clique has somebody who worked in them goddamn offices for the sheriffs and the CEOs. So all your paperwork was being done through convicts. So if you told on it, guess what? It ain't no play. Your legitimate paperwork gonna go through the process, and the individuals who work gonna get it. So your enemy or whoever after you, all you gotta do is send a kite, send it straight to him. He going right on that yard. That's why snitching was so prohibited back in our days. You couldn't break motherfuckers to tell. Motherfuckers rather go do the time or die, and the police couldn't turn a lot of cats in because of those rules. You know what I'm saying?
But now let's go back to when you was talking about the prison and how they set you up and stuff. And this is how you want to have it. Now, that's that era. Now let's go back a little deeper about why we took stealing and snitching so cold. Don't think I don't see you. I got 2 eyes and 1 ear.
Boy, that's some serious for you, boy.
Hey, look, but this real. This is what.
Get your ass up out of here. Get up out my area, then, nigga. Get on. Nigga.
I'm right.
Get your ass up out of here, then.
I'm gonna act like the sun and rise, man. I see something else you're gonna try to do. Oh, you missed that. You know. Oh no, you touched it too much.
Oh,
you touched it too much. You touched it too much. You touched it too much.
Oh, man.
Hey, but you know something else that they don't take into account to why it wasn't, we never heard the word snitch. 72, 73, 74, and you know why? There was no incentive to tell. Don't forget, back then the most you're gonna get for a murder might be 3 years.
3 years.
You do a carjacking, they hadn't even invented that term. That was a GTA, 72, 73, 74. And then when you get caught with a gun, they'll give it back damn near. What you gonna do? Your mama gonna come get you. You just heard me say I had 40 arrests. They didn't have the laws.
Yeah, they had to change the rules.
They changed the rules behind the behaviors that affect all of America today. The tattoo
Y'all's
law.
behavior.
I got this tattoo at 16, 15. I don't get no time for gang tattoos, but what they get out here. 10-year enhancement. If you use a gun, you're going to get 20.
Yeah.
So I tax the law about how do you distinguish on these juveniles to where I got the same tattoo that say Crip, but I don't get enhanced, and I might be active.
Because you didn't fall under that umbrella back then.
Right. But
all your criminal elements was done. It's just like when they came out with the 3-strike law on us. For a lot of us who had crimes before that wave hit, before the 3 strikes kicked in on us, we got them, what was the word called it, where they kicked them out?
Omitted.
No.
It was a word for it, but they couldn't use it against us.
Right.
Feel me? They couldn't, enhancements. They couldn't use it as enhancements. So what they did was they kicked them out. Like we get them enhancements strike. But if you had a strike, which means when the 3-strike law came out and you did a crime within that time period the law came out, then that's a strike. That could be an official strike. So you can either fight for that strike to get off of your jacket based on if you didn't fall up under that fraction of that law at that time frame. But anything after that, 3 strikes, man, they start knocking a hole in our ass.
Speaking of 3 strikes, it's a lot of people don't know. I'm the first one to ever get out from a life sentence in the history of America. Where it came out March 7th, 1994, and I wrote a book about it.
That's when you was down about a dub or something.
No,
right?
I'm the first. That's the 3 strikes. Then I had another life sentence. I just got on where I'm on parole in Georgia. No, I've never been arrested for a violent crime on somebody. I've never been arrested
so you
for.
got out of that one.
No, God got me out.
Right.
When it happened, I had got 25 to life, where they had been following me ever since the LA riots. Don't forget all them guns come out the surplus. Who you think they thought took them? ETG.
Man, I'm gonna go back to that though. We're gonna talk about it because I distinctly remember that night we came over there, boy. But y'all had that motherfucker so locked down, man. Like some real strategic army soldiers, man. You know, man, they had that Western surplus on lockdown, man, and the banks. That's what made me start hitting the banks because man.
One day I seen them cause I was in jail.
That's past this TV land.
They called me. I was in Avenal or something, or whenever that happened. But they called me up to the office, to the lieutenant office, the day of the riot, before it was even known, because, you know, we up north. So, you know, when you go get called to the captain's office, that's something in trouble, either somebody usually dead.
Yeah.
So, I'm saying, man, what they calling me for? I go up there, they say, put your hands to your back. A riot done occurred in L.A. I go to the hole. 19 whatever. I get out. And now I ain't got nothing to do with it, but because those guns came up missing, I got put up under surveillance. Me, Mad Bone, Bulldog from Hoover, Sugar Bear, Smiley, all these guys almost rest in peace now. They came and arrested us where they had found guns in the back buried in my homegirl right next to the surplus. That surplus is also where Tookie got his gun earlier when he got shot in Compton, which led to later on in life to where that murder he caught and went to
the hotels.
The hotel and the other one in Whittier. See, people don't know. Tookie had four, 3 in 1. He had one with Tony or such and such, and the other one with such and such, and he had that other one by itself. So a lot of times you hear Took say, I'm not copping to the other one. I was there. Remember I said we might go by there and see that? So the things were different back then, bro. You know what I mean? And we didn't do it like that. So when it came to snitching, we never heard of a snitch. The most we might say is, hey man, he telling. And I never used that word till they started getting into the gang banging through the drugs. First it wasn't cocaine. Cocaine had already been around. You had Nicky Barnes, you had Tootie Reese here, you had your boys out there, because nobody knows. Water comes from Compton. Nobody cooks water better than the McGowans, the Johnny Guesses. Am I lying? So when they was making mint leaves, before they even started dipping and the Coolicoos opened, we already knew the Coolicoos. That's when they started. And then they started with sipping the stuff through cool cigarettes. Then they got hit. And in fact, China Dog, the girl, Tyra, you know who Tyra is. Tyra met China Dog, who ended up being his wife, through my baby mama, where they were working at churches on Century and Prairie. Herman Moncrief caught a murder over there. That's how come Herman Moncrief, rest in peace, was the boxing champ. Should have still been the champ about when you end up starting going. So back then there was no incentive to tell in 71, 72, 73, 74, 75. That's when you start getting time where you could tell. Right. What we gonna tell about when a murder you only getting 3 years.
And you know this too mentally on the street.
It was no holds barred, so there was no incentive to tell.
Yeah.
And then it was like we were sneaking out. It wasn't like it wasn't no Disneyland. It was a lot of times you didn't have no bed to sleep in.